as I said during halftime of the Bills-Dolphins game on Sunday Night Football, if we're only looking at the teams that didn't make the playoffs, we're not looking everywhere we should be. 12 teams play this weekend. 6 will lose. And some of these teams, if they lose, they're not going to throw their coach overboard. If the Lions lose, Dan Campbell's not gone. If the Rams lose, Sean McVay's not gone. If the Packers lose, Matt LaFleur's not gone. If the Bills lose, Sean McDermott most likely is not gone. In Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, maybe he leaves, maybe he doesn't, he's not going to be fired. There's 2, maybe 3 teams this weekend that I'd be keeping an eye on. The Cowboys, as we've discussed. There's mutual respect there. There's a long history of respect. There's Bill Belichick going on and on at press conferences in the 2023 season before he was getting ready to play the Cowboys and in 2019. And there was the Jerry Jones story of how Bill Belichick said to him back in the 90s, if you ever have an opening, keep me in mind. And Jerry said, I still think about that from time to time. Why wouldn't he? He's the greatest coach in the history of the sport. You got a fully stocked kitchen of talent. Let him come cook the meal with the talent that you have in Dallas. You got Micah Parsons, the closest thing the NFL currently has to Lawrence Taylor. Belichick coached Lawrence Taylor with the Giants. He knows the value of having a guy who can destroy an offense single-handedly. So if the Cowboys lose on Sunday, does Mike McCarthy stay? If the Cowboys lose the following weekend, does Mike McCarthy stay? I think the real question is, if they get to the NFC Championship and they get embarrassed by the 49ers, is that when Jerry Jones throws his hands in the air and says, you know what, the only way I'm ever going to compete with these teams is to have the talent that I have and get the best coach in NFL history and slap it together and go out and dominate. Go out and get another Super Bowl or 2 or 3. Who knows? And Jones, I don't know why people are surprised by this thing that started as me sharing what people in New England were thinking could happen. The idea that maybe Belichick ends up with the Cowboys. Weeks before Belichick and the Patriots mutually parted ways. And it makes sense. At first, it's like, no, that ain't going to happen. Then you start thinking about it. You start doing the research. You see what's been said in the past. It starts to make sense. It all comes down to what Mike McCarthy does. And we've seen a couple of playoff games where, in the final moment, there wasn't the best planning. That quarterback draw that prevented the Cowboys from getting another snap because they didn't plan for the reality that the umpire had to teleport through the quarterback in the center to touch the ball before they snapped it and spiked it and had enough time for one more play to the end zone. Last year, whatever that Stanford band play was going to be where Ezekiel Elliott was the center and Kevontae Turpin got blown up before he could even make the first pitch, those are all on McCarthy. What happens this year in the playoffs if they lose? How much of it goes right back to McCarthy as it relates to how the game unfolds? Even if they lose, generally, it all goes back to McCarthy. But if there's some blunder he's made that Belichick would have never made, throwing the ball on 2nd and 15 and giving the Lions an extra 40 seconds to drive down the field and almost win the game on that Week 17 Saturday night. If there's something like that, hold on to your butts. Could be McCarthy out and Belichick in. The Buccaneers are another possibility. There's a belief that Todd Bowles could be in trouble if they lose on Monday night. He's won 2 straight divisions, but we know the Bucs like to go get the big names. They like to go find big-name coaches. I don't know that Bill Belichick would or should want to go there because that's where Tom Brady went. You don't want to follow that same path, and then you go and you don't win a Super Bowl there. A little too conspicuous, a little too obvious, a little too clear that maybe Brady had more to do with those 6 Super Bowl wins than Belichick. They both were critically important. I don't believe that it was all Brady. I don't think it happens with Brady and without Belichick, and I don't think it happens with Belichick and without Brady. But to the extent that we're going to measure who did what post-Patriots, Brady won a Super Bowl his first year in Tampa. I think if Bill Belichick would go there, he really wouldn't want that apples-to-apples comparison moving forward. The last team that I'm keeping an eye on, well, there's two others. If Andy Reid retires, I don't know that he will. All I know is there was enough smoke last year to make me wonder whether there's a flicker of a flame this year. There's only one team that's got Patrick Mahomes. Could you imagine Bill Belichick and Patrick Mahomes? And then there are the Eagles, who have been a complete and total hot mess the past 6 weeks, 1-5. Nick Sirianni looks like he's doing hostage videos when he does Zoom press conferences. If they lose, and they're the better team than the Buccaneers, if they lose on Monday night, I don't know what Jeffrey Lurie's going to do now that Bill Belichick's available. He's faced Belichick in 2 Super Bowls over the past 20 years, lost one, won one. NFC East, not far from home, not far from where he grew up. And there's just been a weird vibe. It just feels like the Eagles are crumbling to go 10-1 and just fall apart. It's just weird. And so I don't know. Even though Nick Sirianni went to the Super Bowl last year, if they think they can get an upgrade in Bill Belichick, it's something to keep an eye on. Now, hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.